Stranger Things is not really that great of a show. I even watched a few seasons. So all three then? Netflix makes great mini-series, it's only when they try and make a show go on for longer is when they start to suffer. Stranger Things probably started off as a good mini-series, but as it got more popular some way or the other they had to make more seasons and it went downhill from there. I like Stranger Things, although I'll agree it's progressively gone downhill. However, I need to correct one point you made regarding Netflix continuously pushing out more Stranger Things seasons. On the contrary, they have that show on a painfully slow release schedule. The first season was summer 2016, the second season was autumn 2017, the third season was summer 2019, and now we've been waiting for season 4 ever since. It was supposed to be January of 2020, then supposedly first of the year 2021, and now spring/summer 2021, but who knows? By the time they get it out, the kids in the cast will be full-grown adults. The third season ended on a cliffhanger and we are still wondering. The child I started watching the show with has long since moved on and doesn't even care anymore, but I do, lol. I hated the third season because of how horrible Hopper ended up. I agree except for the first season. Season 1 good. The rest, not. I do have to comment that I am a fan of Stranger Things, but one of my huge problems with it is how stereotypical a lot of the characters are. Some are good, such as the Scoops Ahoy nannies. Some are rather boring and tired, such as Will and Officer Douche. At the end of the day though, it's all up to your preferences in a show. It's good for the people that are into mystery, if not you should avoid it. Great unpopular opinion that I disagree with wholeheartedly. I loved the first season, liked the season and hated the third season. Too much romantic stuff in the third season and unfortunately I find all romance to be cringe-inducing, sad face. Yup, I think that now. When it started in first season it was very interesting and kind of suspenseful, but now every answer to their mystery is those fucking Russians. Dano hated half the first season then just fell in love with the characters. In almost every show the heroes win, I just enjoy the ride. It kinda started spiraling. Although I loved the first season, it's never been great. Season 1 is great, and it went downhill on second half all the way through third season. Oh look, it's unpopular opinion, the sub where people post the same shit every day with an opinion which is more of a preference that isn't actually unpopular. I liked the first season, and I've stood caught up. I always thought maybe it could have been an anthology like American Horror Story that takes place in different eras. I thought maybe season 2 would be a brand new story in maybe the 90s or the 70s. Some shows feel like they should be over after one season, like 13 Reasons Why. I don't know how they got like 3 seasons out of that. I only watched the first episode and it never managed to grab me. Yet it's okay, a good blanket and hot chocolate show I'd say. This is posted regularly. Do a keyword search of the sub before posting. Rule 1 and 3. First season is great. After that it kinda ran out of ideas. Finally someone agrees. I agree. I lost interest on the second series. I mean, isn't that every show though? Good triumphs in the end. I wouldn't call this an unpopular opinion as much as I would a known fact about how things work. Though to be fair, a lot of Stranger Things is also tickling people's nostalgia bone. I think without that, less people would like it. 11 is the only thing good about the show really. I loved it. It brought you back to the 80s, or wherever the show is set. My only problem is yet to happen, and that is I don't see how season 4 will have a supernatural villain. I completely agree. I think I finished season 1 but didn't bother carrying it on as it was very meh. In my opinion Season 1 was great, Season 2 was shite but Season 3 was okay. Season 3 feels like it's finally settled into a format. The first season was really good, it was something I hadn't seen before. They are dealing with stuff they don't truly understand, and does the fact that they aren't stopping it make it even scarier? It's like the Thulu mythos, you're fighting against something that is a god or has power beyond your understanding, which I think is a great concept for a horror series. I wish more of them ended up with them not stopping the monster and it was just multiple groups trying to survive against a seemingly unstoppable force. I hope they start to switch up Season 4, or it's gonna become like The Flash. Game of Thrones was good, then they rushed it in the end and cut it off. Feels like BoJack Horseman all over again, where 2+ seasons are just mashed into one because they didn't get renewed or something. But hey, at least we can have our predictable Monster of the Week shows, lol. Agreed. I watched it for the nostalgia factor of being a 80s kid. Beyond that, it wasn't really that interesting. Incorrect. Agreed, but TV has been terrible for a few years by now. It's good. It's just not as great as people say it is. For me, Dark is the best sci-fi show in Netflix. Stranger Things is just another comedy show for me, lol. I thought the first season was great. Season 2 was okay, and Season 3 was a little better than Season 2. Yet I can see where you're coming from. Season 1 was incredible in the way it injected supernatural stuff into a regular small town in the 60s/70s, but Season 2 was honestly pretty lackluster and I didn't feel it explained as much as it should or really fleshed out the new characters it introduced. Having said that though, I did love Season 3 and honestly it was my favorite season. MILF Hunter Billy, the retro 70s summer aesthetic, all the bangers in the soundtrack, all the character development, it was amazing. I do think it should have ended with Season 3 though. I see no need for a Season 4, because honestly I don't know where they're going to go from there. Agreed, it's horribly contrived. I enjoyed the first season. The second season was middling, but I lost interest in the show with the Burger King Kids Club episode. It all went downhill from that point. You have never watched TV before apparently. The main characters almost always win. First season amazing, then downhill non-stop after it. Any show that can actually get me interested even a little is a decent show, and I watched the whole 3 seasons, so I kinda disagree with your opinion, but Stranger Things is not as amazing and legendary as people said it was before I watched it. I never watched it even though everyone was going crazy over it. Didn't find it appealing. Facts. Yes, and they make 3 seasons of that shit and only 1 season of a great show with a large fanbase because it didn't perform like Stranger Things getting millions of viewers in days. Fuck Stranger Things, fuck it. Cuties might be better. IDK haven't watched. The first season was pretty great, the second was okay, the third was meh. I heard that initially the idea was to make each season a completely different story, but the series became an internet phenomenon and as always the internet ruined it. It's an okay show. What really hit home was the 80s nostalgia. That was perfectly timed for today's society. I watched first 2 seasons and didn't watch third for exactly this reason. Not every show needs to have season after season after season. There's only 3 seasons. The first season was great, but the second and third were kinda disappointing. The first season was great, and then it crashed hard because they're trying to do everything now. The story is so bad, I think hipsters just like it for that sci-fi 80s aesthetic. I liked the first season, they lost me into the second. I found the monster aspect interesting, not teenage romance. This is 3rd time I've seen this post, lol. Hated the kids save the world trope from the beginning. I was immediately done with the show after that one montage of scenes of them crawling in some secret Russian operation base and the Russian soldiers being manhandled by them, falling over barrels like in some kid's cartoon. IMO, the first season was brilliant, it really captured 80s nostalgia and was an homage to 80s film and pop culture, but in a really subtle kind of way. Unfortunately, the second season, and even more so in the third, I think it became so over-the-top 80s almost to the point it became a kind of parody of itself. Still a pretty good show overall. The first 2 seasons are good and the third is shit. It's just like any Netflix show boring and uninteresting. That's what I said as soon as the second season came out. I didn't make it through one episode of it. I didn't really even enjoy the first one very much, but the fact that they made the same group of people go through the danger all over again made everything they accomplished in the first season pointless. They have been through enough shit, just let them be happy. At the very least, if they felt like they had to have a second season, make them different people. Netflix doesn't know how to end anything. The most pissed I am at about is what they did to the new Dark Crystal. Should have been an epic standalone mini-series the way they did it. Went through the trouble of making the Skeksis as evil as and disturbing as possible and didn't even give you the satisfaction of them getting defeated in the end. Even the poor dudes who had their mouth sewn together didn't get their revenge. They choose the second season option because they know idiots will watch. Everybody is so familiar with this content abuse that they have developed a Stockholm syndrome of sorts. It's boring. IMO, I stopped watching after 5 episodes. The first season was pretty good, and it was helped by coming out of nowhere. I don't think seasons 2 or 3 were that good, though, and the show mostly survives on residual hype from season 1, and people wanting to see how it ends. First season is the best, they got a bit sloppy after it. I could watch season 1 again and again. Season 2 wasn't amazing, but season 3 was a lot better than season 2. You're right, this show's so dry and boring. I love D&D, but the show's just crappy. I always wonder how the other world thing works. What if a car moves in the real world to another location, does that change in that one? What happens when a new building is put in, or taken down? I really like it because it has some really interesting plot points, but I totally understand why it's not appealing to all audience. However, I do not think this is an unpopular opinion, as many of my own friends do not enjoy it. Any horror show that follows the same cast for more than a season or so can't really stay a horror show. At some point they need to become competent at fighting back or die. It's a shame because I do like the genre. I always thought it was pandering as hell. Remember this movie was cool, and this one clip I saw of the characters singing the theme song from the Never-Ending Story only proves my assumption. Yeah, it's overrated. Sure, some of the shots are nice, coming from a film student perspective, and the opening is a fucking banger to listen to, but like, come on, I've seen way better. I couldn't even watch the first episode, it was boring. Downvoted, smiley face. Not a Stephen King fan, I presume?